Our department meeting. It's a happy time to get back together. We have our visitors from our other complexes coming, and they're recording our meeting too, so people can watch it who aren't here. We have a number who have already gone out to conventions and summer vacations. But here we are. You know what you were doing a year ago? Many of you were moving, right? We were just finishing up the moving cycle. And can you believe that it's already been a whole year since we've been here? We're glad to have our meeting today. We have not been as regular with our department meetings as we have been in the past. Next year, we hope to get on a more dependable schedule for our department meetings. What we'll try to do is have meetings every 2 months from September to May. So we'll have them like September, November, January, March, and then May next year. So we'll try to get that on a schedule so that we can plan appropriately. And we'll go with the same type of pattern that we've set here. We think this seems to work. Have a meeting at the end of the morning, go to lunch, and then unless somebody tells us not to, we'll still have a little party afterward at about 1:45, and have hopefully some refreshments. And while we're on that subject of refreshments, I think we want to stop and say thank you for all those that contribute to the refreshments every time. Would you like to express your appreciation? Just a phone call, and then all of a sudden all this stuff shows up. And it's a beautiful thing. So we really appreciate all the hard work and support. And we know there's financial costs too, and we'd like to contribute to that. And so please, we will work with you on that. And those who want to contribute could see somebody and give them some money for something. Also, as part of that, we like to have a little entertainment section for our little social gatherings, maybe 10 minutes or so. David McMahon is our entertainment tonight guru. So you can see him if you have some hidden talent, and he's got his years of experience with Family Night Committee, and he'll interview you and audition you and see if you're fit to do something for us. But we would like to keep our gatherings, they're upbuilding and informal and encouraging to us all. Also, this summer, we'd like to schedule a department picnic, probably the end of the summer, maybe August, September timeframe. We'll see what we can do as far as reserving the spot that we used last year down behind the sheds over there. So we'll be in touch on that. Probably a Friday evening we would do that. So we'll let you know as soon as we have something that we can schedule. So a lot of changes have taken place, right? Our life is in a different spot than it was a year ago and the year before that. Many of our department have received changes this last year. Many of you have gone from temporary members of the Bethel family to regular members of the family. Some have gone from single people to married people. And we've got some more. We've got Brian Lick and Alex Hunninghouse getting married, not to each other, but in the next 2 weekends. And we've got Yuri and Lisa will be going to Puerto Rico. So changes continue to occur, don't they? When you stop and look back at the last year, it is amazing to see how far we've come, isn't it? We have done a lot of things in the last year. In the department, organization, and responsiveness and spirit, very nice improvements. You look at the department call center, you look at the financial mail room, you look at moving from Papyrus to DMS, you look at the hub implementation, you look at electronic requisitions for world headquarters departments and U.S. branch, some 90 departments that we worked with. A lot of things have happened, and it really is satisfying to stop and reflect how many good things have happened in the last year. In fact, at the concluding comments, I thought I'd open it up to you. You might be thinking about it. How do you feel about the changes that have taken place in the last year? How does it compare with what you were anticipating, what you feared, what you were looking forward to? What is the reality like? We want you to keep it positive, but also realistic, and just whatever expressions as a group you have, there'll be some time to entertain comments of that. But looking forward for the next year, it promises to be a year of accomplishment as well. A lot of things going on that we'll be hearing more about in the next year. We've talked a little bit about our department reorganization. That will be rolled out over the coming months. We're taking our time, making sure we're doing it right. There's a lot of dimensions to it. The organization called for a kind of a reorientation. There's the oversight category that has been defined from Publishing Committee and Treasurer's Office with certain activities in that group, and then there's the what we might call the processing groups, the general accounting and cash management and accounting services and the branch real estate operation. So we want to make sure that we do it right and we do it thoughtfully. As part of this oversight group, the direction is for a compliance area to be part of that. And it has not been detailed yet on from the Treasurer's Office, but in general, it's making sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, which is a lot of things. So in general, we're seeing this compliance area being threefold, 3 levels of compliance area that we'll have. We'll have first of all, organizational compliance. We have hundreds of pages of written instruction and memos over the years from the governing body, its committees, the Treasurer's Office, the branch committee. We have manuals that have been provided for other departments that we work with. There's a lot of detailed direction that's contained in that. And just keeping up with that is a tremendous amount of work. We want to make sure we understand what that involves and how to do that. There's also accounting principles and the accounting profession and making sure that we're doing all the prudent things that you're supposed to do as a nonprofit organization, and the generally accepted accounting principles, how those apply to us. That's a big operation as well, making sure we get our arms around that and how to do it. And then there's also compliance with regard to external factors, all the governmental agencies and municipalities and taxing requirements and registration requirements and so forth. So we're trying to understand how to structure that as best we can, and what the handoff would be from that then to the production groups that will be following through as we receive new direction. And it is always, all of these areas are moving targets. We continually receive more direction, so we have to fold those in, and so there'll be considerable work in that area. But in addition to the department reorganization, one of the things that we're seeing from the Treasurer's Office is role-based assignments. They will be looking at departments, accounting departments around the world, and identifying the roles that are in common, and identifying those that are of similar type assignments and calling them a role and defining what that role looks like. So as those are rolled out in the coming months, we'll be adopting to those roles. And that goes right along with computer rights too, that'll be managed on a role basis rather than on a person-by-person basis. We'll have increased work to do with the LDC organization. The brothers there have spent a lot of time getting their organization together and identifying where all the needs, and so we'll hear more about that today, but their greatly increased workload in the coming years we'll get a glimpse in today, and we'll need to gear to support that. We also have information about impressed funds, which will significantly change in some ways how we process our petty cash, checking accounts that are held by departments, and also credit cards. So the Treasurer's Office has directed around the world, this is not just affecting us, but the work of auditing that will be transferred from the accounting department to the user department. So if a department has a credit card or if they have a petty cash, not only will you have the custodian or holder of that, there'll be a second person in that department that'll do the reconciliation and make sure that all the paperwork is right and everything has been properly authorized and so forth before it comes to accounting for everything that's called an imprest fund. So we'll be working with that over the coming months. We have the hub implementation. We'll be doing the full hub implementation. Some of the accounting pieces are not yet written. They'll still be writing that for probably the next year, but as soon as as they say, as the ink is dry, we'll be implementing those pieces of it in our department. We've had a considerable project of late on what we call the gap to gap. That is the distance or the gap from where we are to what generally accepted accounting principles are, and which ones of those are appropriate to us. So a lot of work has been done, especially in our general accounting group and some outside consultant brothers who've helped us with this. So there's a 106-page checklist of generally accepted accounting principles for nonprofits. And our folks have gone through those, checked everyone. We do this, we don't do that. I don't even know what that means. And all of these things. And then that has to be folded in together and figure out, do we need to make some adjustments in what we're doing and to come into closer compliance. We also have a corporation project that will be rolling forward through to the branch committee. The last 6 months or so, we've been meeting with legal department once a week, looking at all of our corporations and resetting how that they are interacting with each other, making sure we're understanding how in today's environment they should be functioning. Many of the corporations were set up early 2000, 2001, and since then there's been a lot of changes, and we need to bring the corporation activities current with that. So that affects the funding of corporations, the costing of corporation activities, letterhead policy, the role of tax, the role of the board of directors, and many, many other details. So we're trying to define all of that, review it with the branch committee. It'll be reviewed, no doubt, at Treasurer's Office level and Publishing Committee level to see how we can provide better support to the corporate structure. So there's a lot of activities coming up. Oh, one other thing, too. Barbados. We got a call from the Treasurer's Office and then a follow-up letter from the Publishing Committee. They want to do a trial of a larger branch assisting a smaller branch with some of their higher-end accounting needs. So what some branches have encountered is that they can do their bookkeeping locally, but some of the more complex things, there's all these letters and instructions that come from headquarters, and if you just have a very small staff, just reading them is almost a full-time job, reading all the letters we get and trying to figure all of that out. So they want to see if we can be of assistance to the brothers from a larger branch. They did this with one country in Africa. They had a bit of a crisis. They didn't have an overseer, and a larger branch was able to kind of help in and mentor and train a little bit and be a consultant. They want to see if that's a good model to use for a number of smaller branches. So they want us to do a 6-month trial of this type of an arrangement with the brothers in Barbados. So that will affect especially our brothers and sisters in the general accounting group, but maybe some other groups as well, to do some of their accounting, or at least be a consultant for them in those areas. So a lot of things happening, a lot of good things, but it's going to continue to be a time of change. Change isn't easy, is it? So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the meeting. So now we can get started with our agenda of our meeting. We have a very interesting part from a humble brother, a closer look at humility, Brother Kevin Murph. So we'd like to invite you to handle that part.
Any of you know these lyrics? These lyrics are to an old country western song that my grandfather used to sing to us. I don't know why. Maybe you're familiar. If you're not, don't worry. We're not going to do karaoke hour, though I hear if you want to, see Brother McMahon, maybe he can fit you in. This is just a lighthearted attempt on an entertainer's part to talk about humility. But maybe you find yourself agreeing with part of these lyrics from time to time. Maybe you find yourself asking Jehovah, why is it so hard for me to demonstrate humility in my assignment? Now, the thing about humility is none of us are unfamiliar with this quality. We get reminders on it all the time, don't we? Whether that be in the congregation setting, it could be here at Bethel, at morning worship, through Bethel lectures, how we can display humility in our Bethel assignments. But yet, each and every one of us from time to time will struggle with this. Have you found that to be true? But besides just normal human imperfection, maybe you've wondered why at times it can be difficult to display humility in our particular assignment in the United States branch accounting. Well, it could be that an added burden of displaying humility is the functions that we serve. Mark just talked about a lot of these functions, and these functions are basically things that worldly companies have to do. Notice a description I found on the 4 large accounting firms in the world. They are Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, and KPMG. Wikipedia describes them as the 4 largest professional services networks in the world, offering audit services, assurance services, taxation, management consultation, advisory, actuarial, corporate finance, and legal services. Maybe after reading those descriptions, you can find where part of your work fits in one of those categories, or maybe all of your work fits in one of those or several. Do you think humility is something that these companies are concerned about? A humble person is not a desirable person when it comes to these large worldly companies. But yet we perform these same functions and have these interactions with each other. But humility is a requirement since we're doing it in Jehovah's house. If we're going to be happy in our assignment, if we're going to work well with others, then humility is something that we have to constantly take a closer look at. If you find it hard to do that from time to time, then we can draw comfort in the fact that there are many in the Bible that have struggled with it as well. The most notable group of men that have struggled with it, maybe comes to your mind, is the 12 apostles. Did they struggle with humility from time to time? Yeah. Now, these men were spiritual giants. These men walked with Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God himself. Yet, while Jesus was on earth, they never really mastered humility, did they? Jesus continually, time and time again, demonstrated how they should be humble, how they should not view themselves superior. But because of their imperfection, because of the society, the way they were raised, they found that to be a struggle. In the scriptures, it describes these discussions as heated arguments. Now, maybe you've thought about what those discussions were like, being heated, but do you think, what were the actual words that they said? Do you think one apostle said, "No, I'm the greatest," and another one said, "No, I'm the greatest"? No, these were grown men. They had reasons why they felt like they should have the loftiest position in Jehovah's kingdom. Let's just talk about 3 of the apostles and what reasons they may have felt. The Bible doesn't specifically say, but what reasons they may have felt why they were the greatest amongst the rest. We're going to talk about Apostle Peter, John, and Matthew. What reasons would Peter have had to feel like he was greatest among his contemporaries? Well, Jesus had given Peter a special assignment, a special responsibility, a special privilege. Earlier in his ministry, Jesus had promised Peter the keys to the kingdom. And while the apostles may not have known exactly what that would entail, Peter knew that he would be a key piece in initiating a program of special opportunity when it came to the kingdom to others. Do you think because of this special assignment and privilege that Peter may have felt, this is the reason why I'm greater than all of you during those heated arguments? Well, what about the Apostle John? What reasons could he have had that he was greater than the rest of the apostles? Well, John had a rich spiritual background. He was most likely the John mentioned as a disciple of John the Baptizer. He was probably Jesus' cousin. They grew up together. He had a special, long-lasting, close relationship with Jesus. The Bible says, in describing John as being the one whom Jesus especially loved. Because of this history, because of this close relationship with Jesus, do you think in these heated arguments, John could have said, "This is why I'm the greatest"? Well, in regards to John and Peter, they did have something in common, and that was how the society of that time viewed them. See, they were fishermen. In Acts 4, verse 13, it talks about how the public viewed them as unlettered or uneducated and ordinary men. But there was one apostle who had a skill, who had a profession, so to speak. That was Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector. Now, I'm not drawing any comparisons to any group here, but it's interesting that he did have a financial background, isn't it? Do you think Matthew could have said to the rest of the apostles, well, look how society views you. I'm a professional. They don't view me that way. I'm the greatest. I have this secular background, this education, maybe. Do you see any of these attitudes at times we can succumb to when it comes to feeling pride, bad pride, when it comes to feeling superiority and not displaying humility? Maybe like Peter, we were given a special privilege. Maybe we're given responsibility. Maybe we're given an assignment. And because of that, we may start to feel like, well, there has to be a reason why I was given this, therefore I'm superior. And so that may cause us not to follow the direction that we receive, maybe from publishing, maybe from treasurer's office, or within our department here. Or maybe like John, we have a rich spiritual background. Maybe we've been at Bethel for years, maybe decades, so we have relationships with responsible brothers. Maybe we feel like due to the passage of time, and because we've been here for so long, we are privileged for certain things, maybe entitled to certain things. This attitude could rub off on others in the way we treat or speak to them, or maybe, more importantly, don't speak to them. Or maybe, like Matthew, you succumb to this feeling of superiority because maybe you feel like you were brought into Bethel because you have a special secular history. Maybe you have an education, so maybe you're here, maybe you commute, maybe you remote in, and because you have this secular background, you feel like you're superior than those that don't. See, these are things that all the apostles struggle with, so it makes sense that we as a department at times will struggle with those things, those reasons for not being humble from time to time. But the most wonderful part about the apostles is that even though they had these struggles with humility, they succumbed to the training that Jesus gave them, and eventually each and every one of them displayed marvelous acts of humility. What wonderful examples they proved to be. They were given marvelous privileges, each one of these pinned portions of the Bible that we have with us today. So they succumbed to a practice that the Bible describes here in Isaiah 64, verse 8. Turn with me there. This likens the forming of these apostles that they succumbed to. Maybe they had this scripture in mind when they worked on their humility. It's like a potter with clay. Isaiah 64, 8 says, "But now, O Jehovah, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand." Have you ever seen this process done? Have you ever seen a potter make something out of clay? Well, Nicole and I were in Gatlinburg, Tennessee just a few days ago, and we came upon a pottery workshop. And we took a short clip. You were able to view this actually being done. So we took a short clip, 30 seconds, that we'll show you now. Notice how she's taken just useless clay. Before she makes a drastic change, she adds water each and every time. Here she's adding more water to keep it soft. You notice how in just 30 seconds she was able to take useless clay, But because it was moldable and soft, look what she made, something useful. The question for each and every one of us to ask ourselves is, do we really believe what Isaiah's prophecy said? Do we believe that Jehovah is the great potter? Do we believe that he is molding the accounting department, the treasurer's office, and his organization to be exactly what he wants it to be? With all these changes coming, and maybe changes in our assignment, do we believe that Jehovah is the one changing? Is he the great potter? So the question that we should all ask ourselves in addition to that is, what type of clay do I want to contribute towards? See, the soft clay is what the potter used to make what she wanted to make. She kept adding water. In the same way, maybe because of our imperfections or the reasons we mentioned, we start to tend towards being hard and unusable. But Jehovah just throws a little water, a little reminders of humility, and then we become like that soft clay. Soft clay is teachable. Through humility, we can look at ourselves objectively and realize that each and every one of us, our assignments are due to Jehovah, and he can take any humble servant of his and mold them to do all of our assignments. And we're privileged to be part of that. Isaiah 45, verse 9, describes what hard clay does. Isaiah 45, verse 9 says, "Woe to the one who contends with his maker, for he is just an earthenware fragment among the other earthenware fragments lying on the ground. Should the clay say to the potter, 'What are you making?' Or should your hand say, or should your work say, 'He has no hands'?" Now in the video you saw, the clay had no say in what the potter wanted to form. Could we be like hard clay? Could we be like clay telling Jehovah, "What are you doing? What are you doing in the accounting department? This is what I want." Human imperfection will make us lead that way, make us at times, in particular circumstances, basically tell Jehovah, "You have no hands. You're a potter with no hands." So if we're an overseer, if we have responsibility, and we begrudgingly follow the direction that we receive from world headquarters, or maybe within our department, could we basically be telling Jehovah, "You have no hands"? If we've been at Bethel for a long time and we view our assignment as ours to gain or lose, and are unwilling to change and adjust, could we basically be telling Jehovah, "You have no hands"? If we have some secular background or maybe experience, and we come into the accounting department and we say, "This isn't how it's supposed to be done. I've worked here and there and I have experience, and this is not right," as if Jehovah would form his department like any other in the world, could we basically be saying, "Jehovah, you have no hands"? It's interesting to think about it. The fact of the matter is, each and every one of us being used, we are soft clay. Because we're here. Jehovah is using us. If we weren't, he would replace us with soft clay. At that same workshop, Nicole and I bought this. We bought this bowl. The same potter made this one. Now, what I really like about this, besides that it's kind of nice, is that it was on sale. It was discounted because it was considered imperfect. You can't see it from where you're sitting, but there's a crack here, there's a crack here, there's like a little hole here, a little blemish, and it still serves its function, but it's imperfect. We are all like this bowl. We are all serving a beautiful role in Jehovah's accounting department. We are all proven to be soft clay, so Jehovah is able to use us. But like this bowl, we're imperfect. And at times we're going to struggle with this feeling of being superior. And basically, at times we're going to be hard clay. But if we follow the examples of the apostles, if we take a closer look at humility often, and if we recognize those whom we work with are going to show us their blemishes, and we're going to see imperfection of them at times, then we can still continue to be used like this beautiful bowl here. So friends, what wonderful reminders on humility, and may we continue as we have been and demonstrate these in our assignment right here in our department.
I had to coach him to get up on stage. So this is a little part on a special campaign to Israel. Now, we may have saw that in the agenda and wondered, what in the world is this going to be about? I even had some questions about it. But one thing you'll notice that's different in our department meeting, we have a family up here. And I think that's pretty special. Most of you know Brent Buckwalt. He works in the financial mailroom, has just done a terrific job of helping us organize it and keeping it organized. Brent is a father of 2 children, Luke and Hannah, and despite being a father with responsibilities of the father, occasionally he will almost work for us full-time, which is outstanding. Marcy also gives a little support to the department. She helps us with some organizational things remotely, and so we especially appreciate both their hard work. Now, when you think about a family going to Israel for a special preaching campaign, I don't know about you, but I react a little oddly. Why would I take my family to a place that I hear nothing more but terrorism and fighting with the Palestinians? So that raised a question in my mind. Why did you decide to go?
We had just been talking about our family vacation for that year.
And the next week at the meeting, there was a letter read inviting our congregation to apply for this special preaching campaign. And I said to Brent, it's perfect. It's an answer to our prayers. We have to do this.
And I thought the same as you. This is a vacation. It's not, I don't want to go where there's terrorists. I don't want to go to a desert. And I don't want to go preaching necessarily on a vacation.
But very kindly and submissively, I didn't let it go.
So yeah, we talked about it as a family. We talked about to friends in the congregation. They were excited, and talked to some in the work assignment here. They were excited. So I said, well, it can't hurt to apply.
And while we were talking about it for a few days, we had gotten the application just to look it over. But what I hadn't told Brent is I had it all filled out. I had it attached to the email and ready to go. And as soon as I got his text, off it went to the secretary.
And I thought, there's no chance. I'm just doing my due diligence. We'll apply for it, but they'll never accept us since we have kids.
And I really was thinking the same thing. I thought there's no way we'll get invited. But much to our surprise, we did get the invitation.
And I wondered why, what are we doing? How much is this going to cost? Is this going to be a vacation, or are we going to be refreshed? So I had a lot of questions still.
Kind of what you're getting yourself into,
Exactly.
Right? So let me ask you this then. What, after being committed, did you do to prepare for the trip?
Well, there was a lot of, we did a lot of research into the Insight book. We looked into the Good Lands brochure, looked at maps, and also there was a lot of packing.
We also practiced our presentations in Hebrew.
And I prayed for a good attitude. And we also had family worship projects where everyone brought to the table their favorite spot, their favorite historical site, along with scriptures, so that we could prepare for it and get ready for what's ahead.
And honestly, once reality started hitting, I became very nervous. I thought, we're going to Middle East. I'm taking my kids to the Middle East, something I said we would never do. But one thing that was really helpful is some friends in the congregation had been, and they really walked us through, helped me feel more comfortable about it. We had one couple over for family worship, and they shared their pictures with us. Another couple talked to me a lot about how safe it was when they were there. One sister, she went above and beyond. She helped us with maps and an itinerary that they used when they were there, which was really helpful because we weren't going to have a lot of time for the actual touring because we were there for the campaign. And one other sister, she dug deep somewhere in Walk Hill's literature department and came up with the Good Land brochures for us because we only had one copy.
Very nice. So it looks like you did some very good preparation. Now, your family served sort of in a need greater role in Mexico. Did that have an effect on your decision to go to Israel?
Yeah, definitely that helped prepare us. We had drove down to Mexico. We were there for a year. And so it's helped us to appreciate being together in a spiritual campaign or a spiritual endeavor. Could be fun.
And service there was so amazing, so it really made me want to do more in service.
And it helped me to realize that no matter where we go, we make friends and we're not losing any. And we also have a lot of fun.
Another thing that was happening when we were in Mexico was the local friends were going on these preaching campaigns. And we really wanted to get involved, but we couldn't because we weren't locals. So, but it was always in the back of our mind. We thought, wow, we would really like to do a preaching campaign together as a family. So when they announced it in our congregation, we were really excited. Well, some of us were really excited.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the land and the people in Israel?
Okay, so from this first slide, we can see that there's about 1,600 publishers with 8 million people in the country. So it's a lot to preach to. With 30 congregations, they had quite a task. And this is a picture of Tel Aviv, some of the construction there. They're building. Construction is just booming. So they can't keep up with the territory. They can't cover it in time. There's territory that's never been preached to. There's territory that hasn't been covered in 10 years and 5 years, so it's a daunting task. This is a picture of the Kingdom Hall, where they're coming into the Kingdom Hall. It's like a conveyor belt. 8 congregations use this one Kingdom Hall, a very crowded situation. This shows a lineup of the Russian friends waiting for the English to leave.
And one of the reasons it is so crowded is because of the religious groups. They give so much opposition to the brothers. They won't rent them space for the Kingdom Hall. They won't sell land to them. So it's a difficult situation for the Kingdom Halls.
Right, and this video shows the Kingdom Hall in Tel Aviv. All the publishers that they have, they're using this nondescript, looks like a back alley warehouse. It's on the 2nd floor. It's very difficult to find. So it's an interesting situation. This video shows going up to it.
And then the next video shows the actual inside of where you walk through the building to get to the Kingdom Hall. It's like a maze. And there, again, is no signs. Just until you get right in front of the Kingdom Hall, there's a little tiny jw.org sign, so you know you're in the right place.
And Hannah got to try out her new GoPro.
That's right.
And if you're late, then they lock the doors, so you have to knock to get in.
Right, they don't put the signs on the Kingdom Hall because of the opposers there. It's a very difficult situation for the brothers. And this is one of the meetings we were at. They gave us parts, they translated. They don't use the names of the last names of the brothers and sisters because it would compromise their location. So, and there's also spies in the congregation. They have to be careful of. They're people that show interest, but they're there just to get information and expose our brothers and sisters.
And I was really impressed with the brothers and sisters. We all drew very close to them. This actually is a picture of some in the congregation and also the preaching campaign.
And see the territory. We have these 3 large cities within the territory for 100 publishers. Again, it was quite a daunting task, a typical apartment building, door after door after door. We had to be very careful which doors we knocked on, because there were opposition. There was much opposition. Rabbis behind the door, those that would chase you down, spit on you, throw stones. So it was very nerve-wracking. This is a typical group. It's a publisher's meeting. We'd have to come up in 2s, leave in 2s, and be very, very quiet. They didn't, again, want to compromise the homes of the brothers and sisters. But even at the end, they did. The opposers found out where we were at the end of our month there. They camped out in front, so we had to move locations, move to the Kingdom Hall. And this shows a video of doing the cart, our cart witnessing. This is an opposer coming to the cart, and it'll show an example of what they do to us. He's taken a picture of us to post it on social media with our names, our faces, anything they can get. But he's distributing our literature here for us.
I thought it was so impressive, and this is just the general demeanor of the brothers and sisters there. They're so courageous, they're so calm during any kind of opposition that they receive.
You did count placements, right?
Oh, for sure.
And the brother in the tan suit, he was a former boxer, so... Yeah.
Could have cleaned his clock. But he didn't. He showed restraint. He throws the literature and hits one of the cars passing by. It's a good idea in what the brothers and sisters have to deal with and how they can use our prayers.
Not every day was a bad experience. This was a pretty good day preaching. We were preaching along the beach, and we did get a lot of people to talk to, actually. And then that same day, we were walking along, stopped at a restaurant, and met up with a group from the Russian congregation. And the two sisters up front, they were actually from the Moscow congregation in Russia, and they had come over for the special Russian preaching campaign. And this was right before the verdict was announced in Russia.
And sometimes we were nervous, but most of the time we had really good experiences. Like this couple, we talked to for a very long time, and we showed them a video. They showed us really great hospitality. They offered us coffee and drinks. I got another lady who we met up with in the park. I gave her a tract, and we talked for 40 minutes. And by the end, she was telling me that she felt like it was an answer to her prayers, that she was there. And we had more people ask for Bible studies. It was really amazing.
Now, the one in the park, you actually started a study with her, right?
Yeah, and she's still studying.
Very nice.
And some days it was a little nerve-wracking just talking to Jews, and some people didn't listen. But it was really fun working with the friends. It made it a little less nerve-wracking.
And occasionally they listened, right?
Yes.
Oops.
So you were doing a presentation in Hebrew. What was that about?
Yeah, I said Rotiti latet laha alum, and I'm pretty sure it meant I would like to give you something to read.
He's pretty sure it meant. All
So-
right, you get kudos for that.
A Hebrew brother just gave it to me, so.
Sometimes we were nervous, but it was really fun. So not only did we do preaching, we also got to see many different kinds of animals that I've only seen in the Bible or heard about in the Bible. And then we saw sheep, we saw mountain goats, we saw camels, and the next.
What's that guy doing kissing my daughter?
And we pulled alongside the road, and this baby came up to us.
So Hannah, this worked out pretty good for you, right? Because you
Yes.
love animals.
Yes, we stopped on the side of the road, and he came up to us. I was excited to see him. He was also excited to see me.
This is where I called Vince in risk management. Do we have camel insurance? Camel coverage?
That's when you ask if you have coverage. Right now is when you call Tony, right? When you get damaged.
He likes to taste of budget.
That was enough of that.
And this was the Hezekiah's tunnel. It was neat to see this. It brought it to life for me after watching the Hezekiah video and seeing where it actually happened. And this is the pool of Shalom, where the blind man was sent to be healed here to wash. And this was in the Jesus video from the 2015 convention. And this is the Bethel in Israel.
They asked us not to post anything. And why was that?
Yeah, we couldn't post any pictures of the branch or the preaching campaign or anything on social media. We even had to be careful what we texted about this preaching campaign because at any time the authorities could take our phones or whatever other device we had and go through and really it could affect the preaching campaign.
And this is inside the Bethel, and their names are different. It's Kola and Sonia.
So why were the names different?
Well, I guess that they take more common names in Israel, and then they use the names we have here and use the closest they can find, I guess.
But the key word there is I guess.
We took a picture of the counting department, but the one person was away at the time.
This is one of my Israeli friends. His name was Joab. He helped me learn a little Hebrew.
The hospitality of the Friends was amazing. It was like a modern day Lydia's. Probably something to do with it too is that we were one of the first families that they had ever had at the preaching campaign. And we got to enjoy time with the friends that were also the campaigners.
In this video, it's a get-together we had. And if you can tell, the Hebrew friends are pretty reserved. So see if you can tell which ones in the video are campaigners from Brooklyn and which ones are Hebrew friends.
The trip also brought a lot of learning opportunities, especially for the kids.
And after running through the desert, after the trip, I looked down at my shoes, and there was like that much at the bottom, left at the bottom of them, and it made me think about the promise that Jehovah made to the Israelites about their shoes wearing out.
This thorn actually got stuck in my foot, and it was pretty painful. It was so big, and it helped me think about the thorns that maybe Jesus had, his crown of thorns, and it gives me a new appreciation for what he would have gone through.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Now, just to conclude, the Buckwelts put together a little video that I think nicely sums up their trip and the experience. And while we're showing this, maybe they can just briefly comment on some of the blessings that they received as a family.
While being part of the preaching campaign was an incredible privilege, and we would love to do it again, the fact that it was in Israel was a true blessing because it gave us opportunity to see Bible lands. It brought Bible stories to life for both the kids and us. A sister told me before we went, your Bible reading will never be the same. And I figured it was true, but I never knew how very true it would be.
And when you read Bible experiences, it doesn't seem as amazing, but when you actually get to visit it, it makes it really come to life.
The friends were really amazing too. We made some new friends, and we hope to see them again soon.
Even the foods that were talked about in the Bible, it was incredible to see them in person. Everything we did, everything we saw, made us think about Jehovah, and that was really special.
So Brent, you wanted a vacation. So how'd it turn out?
It was that and more. It helped me appreciate doing something like this, like a special convention, a preaching campaign, will always turn out better than you think it will. It's when you can combine a spiritual activity with being with the friends, and on top of that, being in the Holy Land. It was just unbelievable, the experiences that we had. And I think it helps us to identify now, when we hear Israel, we identify it with the friends there, with people, instead of border or something nondescript. Now we can identify with friends that we actually know there and what they go through. So it helps us in many different ways. It drew us closer together as a family, helps our Bible reading, our study together, and it makes us want to do something like this again. So it reinvigorated us to want to do more.
Well, thank you very, very much for sharing this with us. It is amazing for us because few of us have been in the Promised Land. To see the connections you've made, both with our brothers and sisters and also with the land and your spirituality, has been encouraging. Thank you very much. So we're going to give attention to Brother Taggart, coming here from LDC. He's here to share with us a little bit of an update from LDC and how it will affect us as a department.
I need to start off by saying that how in the world do you follow up that? What, right? What a presentation. Thank you so much for sharing that. I couldn't help but think as we were listening to that, I had the privilege of coming over and just being a part of your little journey too, and I can't wait to share it, not on social media, but back with LDC. And, we worry about our processes, and we worry about our buildings and our maintenance and all the tasks that we have to do, and those friends worry about their lives. They worry about their service to Jehovah. Boy, it just puts everything in perspective, doesn't it? So just thank you for letting me be a part of your vacation. Friends, I want to tell you, too, on behalf of LDC, we're very excited to be here with you today. Just the mere fact that we have a roadmap that we actually can share with you, friends, and help you to see not only what LDC is doing currently, but the work that LDC is going to be doing in the future. It makes our heart rejoice to be able to share some of these comments with you. But before we get to that part, I think it's important that we just let you, friends, know just how LDC feels about you. There's a misconception out there that accounting and construction, well, they just don't get along, right? That's oil and that's water, and they simply don't mix. And we want to dispel that rumor. That simply is not the case. We know that you work with spreadsheets and you work with adding machines, and you talk about payables and receivables and all kinds of different things like that, requisitions. And we talk about T-squares and tape measures and nails and hammers. And they do seem opposite. But we also want you to understand we cannot accomplish the task that we're doing without the support that we are receiving from our U.S. branch accounting department. So on behalf of LDC, we just want to tell you thank you. And I don't think I could say it as eloquently, perhaps, as one of the apostles that I love, the Apostle Paul. If you have your Bible or your electronic device, if you open there to the book of Philemon, the first chapter, we want to pick up on this little point. There, Paul found himself in a bit of a pickle, but when he called his trusted companion over to visit him, he was in prison. Notice what he called him here in verse 1. He says, Paul, a prisoner for the sake of Christ Jesus, and Timothy, our brother, to Philemon, our beloved fellow worker. As we think about U.S. branch accounting, we view you, brothers and sisters, as our beloved fellow workers. The reason is because we know that what you do is not to support LDC, but it's to support kingdom interest. We're all fellow workers in that at the end of the day, we're doing all we can to support God's kingdom and the interest of God's kingdom. And let me tell you, as we're going to see today, there's a tremendous amount of work. And of course, here's what we do for you, friends, often. If you look down in verse number 4, Paul says that I always thank my God when I mention you in my prayers, as I keep hearing of your faith and the love that you have for the Lord Jesus and for all the holy ones. So we don't pray often to Jehovah telling him to please make accounting listen to us and do it our way, but we pray to Jehovah thanking him for the support that we receive from you, dear friends, not just the ones here at Bethel, but as I understand, all the remotes that are tied in out there through the entire U.S. branch. So thank you. Now, what are we here to talk about today? What is the roadmap that we can share with you? Over the past couple of months, we've had some nice videos that have been put out by a branch committee that really show us, we've had those at our midweek meeting, that show us the work of LDC, what they're designed for, what their intent is, how each one of us can be a part of it. And those are really nice. The word is getting out about LDC as LDC starts to produce work. But how is it that LDC organized this work? How do we put it in a roadmap, as the title of our discussion is here today? There's a number of different ways that we can do that, but really the focal point of the work that goes on in LDC is known as a Kingdom Hall Master Plan. You'll be happy to know that the master plan was adopted by our branch committee a number of months ago, sometime around October, November. And of course, they own the master plan, and so they're charged with administering the master plan with the assistance of not only local design construction, but also working closely with our brothers in service department. But you might be asking, well, what's a master plan? Wish I could show you one on the screen, but I don't have a master plan. As I mentioned, branch committee owns it, and they're holding it very close. It's shared with LDC right now. In the future, there's no doubt there will be one in a published format. But a master plan simply helps us to identify overcrowded auditoriums and place their need in a prioritized order for construction. So what does that mean? Well, let me see if I can help us out here. Back in 2014, if you're an elder here, you remember this time we were all called together and the master plan was shared. And we said that right now in the U.S. branch, we need 1,200 Kingdom Halls. Now, of course, when we heard that in LDC, we were perplexed a bit, with Jehovah's blessing, confident that we could do 1,200 Kingdom Halls. However, the other side of our brain was saying, how in the world are we going to do 1,200 Kingdom Halls right now? But then we began to apply some of the principles that were handed down to us by different governing body committees. And we found out that an overcrowded auditorium of 5 or more in those auditoriums, instead of just 3, we could put 4 congregations in those auditoriums. So that brought our numbers down. And then we started working with service department under that master plan to see how maybe we could fully utilize the auditoriums that we have out there. Could we put 70% capacity in that Kingdom Hall? Could we merge congregations and build up the brotherhood, build up stronger congregations, stronger bodies? And so that endeavor was undertaken. And then when the master plan went to the branch committee just a few short months ago, we rolled out to them that we no longer needed 1,200 Kingdom Halls right now. We needed 200 Kingdom Halls over the next 5 years just to address the overcrowding. And let me tell you, that was a sigh of relief for us because we could see Jehovah's blessing in it. We knew that Jehovah was telling us that's the direction that we need to go. So a prioritized order was put together on a master plan, and we know, as we're going to see here in just a minute, just how many of those new Kingdom Halls that we have to build every single year. We actually have addresses where we need to build these Kingdom Halls. Now, the very same thing could be said of major renovations. Bigger task. Almost 6,400 auditoriums out there that we have to maintain. Now, it's said that a building will last about 20, 25 years before it needs a major renovation. So if you do the math, I think we have people in this department that know math, right? So if you do a little bit of math, you'll find out that we have about 300 buildings that we need to renovate every single year. So not only do we identify overcrowded facilities where we need to build a new auditorium, but in that master plan, we're also able to identify those 300 renovations and prioritize their need. Now, you might be asking, well, how do you prioritize it? There's a lot of auditoriums, 6,400. Assessments are done on every single one of those auditoriums every 2 years. Part of that assessment is you assign it a projected renovation year. Projected renovation year. Then it's easy for us to say, okay, in 2017, this many buildings need to be renovated. In 2018, this many buildings need to be renovated, and so on. And so thus it becomes the master a year, or 0 to 40 or 50 a year, but we need to ramp up. So grace. So starting there in 2017, you'll notice, let me get to it so I can give you the correct numbers. 2017, we need to do 72 major renovations, and those are well underway. We need to construct 20 new Kingdom Halls, and those are almost completed at this point. 2018, we need to do 150 major renovations and 35. Growth. Incidentally, by 2020, that's the year the branch committees told us all the work, the backlog, has to be taken care of. So the backlog's included in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Now this chart you're looking at, this is just a pace chart. Each one of those numbers, 72 and 20, for instance, in 2017, every one of those has an address. We know exactly what building needs to be renovated that's part of those 72. We know where the 20 are going, the new construction that we're pursuing throughout the year, and so on through 2018, 2019, and on into 2020. So for us in LDC, this is a major milestone. This is the first time in the U.S. branch that we've literally had a Kingdom Hall master plan. LDCs throughout the world are accomplishing the very same thing. So friends, what does this mean for you? Well, this roadmap that we've laid out is bumpy, but we have a lot of help. We look at our next slide. It has some more information on it that helps us to see just what we're facing. Total of 6,379 auditoriums. It's made up of 48 assembly halls, 6,221 Kingdom Halls, 536 residences, 1 Bible school facility, 4 former branch facilities, 9,127 total buildings. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, we're good at math. Those numbers don't add up. So let me explain that. So the 9,127 buildings, every Kingdom Hall usually has an outbuilding. So that's 2 buildings. Every assembly hall has multiple outbuildings. Bible school have multiple outbuildings. The way the organization has asked us to look at that is every building stands on its own merit. So grand total, including outbuildings, garages, annexes, literature depots, there's 9,127 in the U.S. branch. Currently, we have 98 assembly hall servants caring for all of our assembly halls. We have 30 construction groups. That's groups of 4, husbands and wife, 2 couples. We have 17 Bible school servants serving down at in Florida. And we have 70 field reps and almost 800 maintenance trainers who are assigned about 10 to 12 buildings that they care for. Some of those numbers are already outdated just from the time that this PowerPoint was drawn up. Right now we have about 85 field reps that are helping us to investigate all of this work. Number of construction groups by 2020 will almost triple to be able to accomplish the work that is out there today. So a large army of brothers and sisters helping to accomplish this work. What does this mean for you? Again, this means more work. This means, friends, we're going to be counting on you more than we are right now. And you're probably thinking, well, you know, we have processes in place. We have things worked out. Things have ran smoothly here at the branch, and here's this new department, LDC, and they're asking us to look at our process and see if we can adjust our process. And we know sometimes that causes anxiety on your part. It causes anxiety on our part too. So we're all working together. We're slaving for God's kingdom to try to accomplish this work. This is why we started our discussion by just saying that we understand we can't accomplish the work that we need to accomplish without you, dear friends, and all the tireless hours that you sacrifice spending in doing your assignment. But there is no doubt that if we continue to work together, under the blessing of Jehovah that we will accomplish all the work that Jehovah has put in front of every single one of us. And you know, there's a lot of things that we can think about. When you think about the LDC and what's Jehovah doing? Why are we doing this? Why make the change from RDC to LDC? We could think that, is there a large influx that he's just waiting to bring in potential sheep out there that he wants to give an opportunity to make a choice, but we can't do that if we don't have houses for them to worship in? Or is it that Jehovah's training us on how to work together in the new system? How that it can't be this way or that way. It's our way, it's Jehovah's way. We can simply speculate on what he's doing. But one thing that we can be confident in is that we need your help to get there, as you brothers need our assistance in what we are doing. So here's what we ask of you. We won't read this verse, 1 Thessalonians 5:17. You remember the verse? Some say it's the longest verse in the Bible. It's only 2 words. Pray constantly. Pray incessantly. Beg Jehovah not only to strengthen your faith, but beg him to strengthen our faith, so that we all can see clearly that what we're doing is not work that's isolated to our department, but it's really building an organization that Jehovah can use as a tool on the earth today. If we do that, we will find success. And so again, on behalf of LDC, we just want to say thank you. We want to thank you for your patience. We want to thank you for all that you're doing in our behalf. And I think we want to tell you to buckle up, because there's a lot of work out there. And it's interesting, in talking to some of you earlier, it's nice that we have conversations now based on realities and not theories. Now we have 800 or 900 projects in the pipeline. They're somewhere between investigation, approval, and actual construction. So it's nice to look at processes that we're all working on and have real world parameters that we can be thinking about. So friends, we just want to tell you, may Jehovah's rich blessing satisfy the work you're doing to support this and all of God's kingdom interest. Now we're going to give our attention back to Brother Castell.
Beautiful meeting. Thank you all for your nice contribution to that. And as I was listening to Brother Taggart's report about LDC, I was reminded of Brother Barr's life story, Jack Barr. And he said, you know what really helped him at Bethel when he and his friend were making, the phonograph machines. And it was a very repetitive job. He said, but as they were making those phonograph machines, they were thinking, listen to all those people, or remember all those people who are going to be listening to what comes out of that phonograph. And that made their work so enjoyable. So to hear things like this, to connect the day-to-day work we do with the needs of Jehovah's people and interested people all across this branch territory, that's what really brings us joy. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate the excellent information about humility and the nice trip report that we had from the Buckwalds. Thank you all very much. We've got just a few minutes, but I thought it might be instructive, interesting, just to hear any comments that you have. We've been here for a year now. How did the reality compare to what you were envisioning? Who's going to be brave and start us off? Matt Easterwood.
I like that I have more opportunities to play basketball outside.
Good.
No, but more recreational facilities. So that adds a lot to our assignment here, being able to just go out and join a game, whether that's volleyball, basketball, or just enjoy a nice walk.
Okay, good. Brother Gig?
My wife and I have talked about it was going to be really hard for us to leave Brooklyn because we both loved it. But when you get up here, it was such an easy transition. The brothers at Walk Hill have made it so much easier. Generally, we have no problem at all walking to work. It's just very nice and enjoyable. The concrete is all flat. We don't have to worry about stumbling over cobblestones to get to work. We don't have to walk around dog mess or anything like that. So it's just nice. It's the brothers working here at Walk Hill have helped us and made it so much easier to come and enjoy, and they made us feel part of their family really quickly.
Excellent. Juan?
Yeah, something I appreciate is also the peaceful environment. There's no background noise. I like to quote something that I heard firsthand from another brother, a comment they heard about a governing body member when they moved, how they felt a cloud go away. They can think clear. And that's how I feel as well. I can be more relaxed, focused. The stress is just work, not the environment. So it's been very healthy and helpful.
Very nice. Brother Winkler?
I didn't realize how stressful Brooklyn was until I got here. Walking from 90 Sands and crossing under the bridge, going over roads and streets, avoiding this and that, and finally getting to the office building, starting your day on the defensive and trying to survive just the walk from one building to the next. And you get here and it's just so peaceful. We just have a wonderful stroll through the complex, and it was just, I really just appreciated that almost immediately. And I never even thought about how negatively affected I was from just being in that city environment before I got to work each day.
Excellent. Mike Hidalgo?
And I had done a temp assignment here in Walk Hill about 10 years ago for a couple of months, and I had a very different impression. So in my mind, I had one feeling about Walk Hill, but coming back, it's been completely different in a positive way. And I realized the biggest difference was just my attitude, having a positive attitude towards the change, and realizing that Jehovah knows best where to place us, even better than we think ourselves.
Very nice. So we have Wendy Sandoval.
One of the things that I thought was so nice about moving up here is it's a newly renovated facility. So we moved into new construction, we have new wiring, everything that we did to bring us from Brooklyn in the office building to this new area was so much simpler and cleaner. Things worked so well. We had a lot of issues because of the office building. Some of the wiring was old. It was constant trouble calls, and since we've moved up here, it's gone way down as far as that. So having a new facility has been really nice.
Excellent. Lisa?
And I like how this complex really lends itself to live as a Bethel family. So not only are you at work with your brothers and sisters, but even after work, it's so refreshing midweek to look out and see the recreational areas being occupied with friends, Bethelites enjoying each other's company, or at the barbecue areas. And I'm available for any invites, but I just think it's really nice that we get to live as a Bethel family.
Very nice comments. Sydney?
Well, I'm enjoying a different type of service. Now I have houses to go to instead of banks of doorbells to ring, and actually getting to see people. But I do miss Sahadi's and Trader Joe's and a few others.
Absolutely. So we have Tina.
As far as the work is considered, previously in Brooklyn, we had a much smaller staff, and pretty much members of general accounting were working overtime practically every day. There was always someone from GA that was working overtime. But since we've moved here, we've added so many more people to the department, commuters and remote workers, and I think that's helped tremendously with the workload.
Absolutely. Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, just the whole layout of the branch, all winter long, I never had to put on a winter coat to get to work, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
I didn't have to shovel my car out of the snow because of the covered parking, and I just got a bicycle last week, so life is good at Walk Hill.
Good. Excellent. Well, I'm sure we could have a lot more comments, but on the whole, I think you're all feeling, as most of us are, net very positive reaction to this. Whenever there's change, it's not always without its negatives. It's not always without its stress. When I said goodbye to our Brooklyn congregation, I cried harder than I had since my mom died. But I like the comment of young brother Buckwalt. We're not losing friends, we're gaining new friends. So we stay in touch with our dear friends in Brooklyn, and we have a very blessed situation here. So thank you all very much for your hard work, and we'll go to eat lunch, and then we'll be back in this family lounge right next door to this auditorium at about 1:45. We'll see you then.